Okay, let's start today with a flavorful pasta option. First, we're going to start by cooking off our pasta. I'm choosing to use a penne. However, you can use a pasta of your choice, a campanelle or a ziti, or you could even use shells if you wanted to. This is your choice. So cook it, bring it to your desired tenderness. Pasta typically wants to be al dente, but some of us like it a little softer. Once done, you can rinse. Next up, we're going to make a quick roux. We're going to use about 3 tablespoons of butter and a half a cup of flour. We're going to cook this on medium heat until the butter is absorbed into the flour. And then we're going to cook it for about probably another 7 to 10 minutes. You want this to be almost granular in form when it's done, kind of on the dry side, almost like a dry cake batter. Once again, at this point, I think we're using probably about a half a cup of flour. So you're going to mix this in, like I said, till the butter is totally absorbed. And then we're going to cook it down. Another alternative to a roux, if you were trying to, keep butter and dairy out of this recipe, would be, you could use a cornstarch slurry also. I've done it both ways. The roux tends to give a heartier butter flavor, where cornstarch will give a kind of smoother or silkier texture. If you're going to do this with a cornstarch slurry, remember when doing that, put in just enough water to make the paste. Obviously, the more water you put in with cornstarch, the thinner your activation is going to be, so the littler the better. Next up, we're going to grate our cheese. I'm choosing here to use a sharp cheddar. I will also use a Parmesan to go along with this. I like using the 2 flavors is that the cheddar gives a deeper base flavor, I think. Gives it kind of a deeper note on the back. Also, when thinking about this pasta recipe, keep in mind that the pastas, typically a lot of pastas today are vegan friendly. So while this recipe does contain a lot of milk, you certainly could make it vegetarian friendly by just removing, we're going to have sausage in this recipe. So next up, we're going to cook off the sauce. We're going to start with some olive oil in a pan. We're going to add some garlic, and we're going to start to brown that. You can use fresh garlic here if you want to mince that up thin, small, or you can actually, like I'm using, pre-minced garlic purchased at the store. If you have a choice when you're buying it at the store, I prefer in oil. It makes it a little easier. Next, we're going to add about a cup of cream, heavy cream, and then we're going to add a cup of milk, and then about 3 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to let this all come up to temperature. And then once the liquid is hot, we're going to add our cheeses. We're going to add the cheddar and the Parmesan together. We're going to stir and whip this until it becomes smooth and the cheese has been incorporated in. We're going to do salt and pepper to taste. Remember, the Parmesan tends to be on the saltier side, so be careful as to what you're putting in there. Also, I typically will use unsalted butter, so therefore, I have a little bit more control over what salt is going into the recipe. Like I said, add some pepper. And then finally, what we're going to do next is we are going to add the roux. And at this point, or you can add the roux, you can add your cornstarch slurry, whichever method you've chosen to go with. And then from here, you're just going to cook this down until it becomes the consistency you desire. Typically, it's like a gravy consistency. You want it to slowly pour off a spoon. You don't want it to kind of form peaks. And finally, I'm choosing to use sausage with this recipe, so it would be an Alfredo sausage recipe. You can use anything you want. You could use a turkey sausage, you could use a vegan sausage. We've done this also with the butternut squash. That's another good option if you want to stay along the vegetarian lines. What we're going to do is put the sausage in a pan. We're going to break it up small, and then we're going to brown this. Now, like I said, you could also use other things. I mean, I've used eggplant in the past with this. That works good. You could use this, summer zucchini squash, anything along those lines. Chop this sausage up fine. Really don't want too big of chunks in there. We really are more putting it on top as kind of, well, not really a little more than a garnish. And as I can see, you're going to cook it down. You want a crust to it. And then once that's complete, we're going to plate. It's about 1.5 cups of pasta, maybe 2 cups of pasta in the bowl. And then you can put the desired amount of Parmesan Alfredo sauce that you like. I would say probably about, 1/8 cup. Some people like more, some people like less. And then I would top that with like 3 tablespoons of sausage. And that will give you your sausage Alfredo penne. It's a quick, easy meal, very flavorful, and relatively inexpensive by today's terms. Thank you and enjoy.